Welcome to Breaking Vinyl. I'm your host, Dez, aka Johnny Fever. And as always, I'm joined by my two co hosts. First up, the podcaster coming through in high fidelity, Evil Ed. What's up, Ed?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
And B-Side Dave is off on business again this week. So back again, pinch hitting in the number 3 position from our sister show. Hey, did you ever see that movie? The podcaster who likes the beat on the dark side, Delynn.
Hello, everybody.
All right. This week, we will be discussing Let's Dance, the 15th studio album by the late, great David Bowie, produced by David Bowie and Nile Rodgers, released on April 14th by EMI American Records. The album peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200, knocking off Michael Jackson's Beat It. The band lineup is as follows, or was as follows, I should say. David Bowie on vocals, the great Stevie Ray Vaughan on guitar.
Late great.
Yes, I should say both the late great. Nile Rodgers on guitar, Carmen Ross on bass, and wow, what a bass it is. Rob Sabino on keyboards, Tony Thompson on drums, and oh, what drums they were. Sammy Figueroa on percussion, Robert Aaron, Steve Elson on saxophones. That's 2 people, in case you were wondering. Okay. I was lacking a pause there between the two of them. I wasn't sure if we had middle names or what was happening there. Okay, so let's share some facts on this one. I'll start off. I got one good one. So China Girl, which is one of the best songs I've ever heard, was actually written by David Bowie and Iggy Pop. The song had begun as a song called Borderline that the two of them came up with one night residing at the Chateau de Horville in Horville, France, during the sessions for Iggy Pop's debut solo album, The Idiot.
Well, we just lost all our French listeners.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I think if he just follows it up with the fact that he said idiot, even though it's an album reference, kind of maybe bails us out. That was horrible.
Oh, my God.
Horrible pronunciation.
Yeah,
Oh,
you can
God.
hear Iggy Pop's version. It's almost the exact same song, just not as good.
Holy shit, that was a fucking train wreck. Also, I would like to just say hello to our new listeners in Albania and Australia. Put a shrimp on the barbie. Okay.
Oh, no, you didn't do
Ed,
that.
Ed, what do you got for facts on this album?
Ed has stepped away from his microphone if you're not paying attention.
I am looking at the script. Delynn, what do you have for facts on this lovely album?
So
Sorry.
That's okay. So you have to really look at who's producing here. I mean, yes, David Bowie is a producer, but Nile Rodgers, his fingerprints are all over this thing. I mean, without him, this album doesn't sound like this at all. So Nile Rodgers, it's just like last week with Depeche Mode and Flood. Nile Rodgers did Madonna's Like a Virgin. Duran Duran's
Right.
Notorious. Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out. That's, and of course he was in Chic. That's his band. So
yeah, this man writes hits. This man writes hits.
Oh, yeah.
It's so hooky, so catchy, so funky. And David Bowie was not funky before this. This is like, he brings that into it so much. You also have to understand about this album is that this is released right after Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. So like, that's kind of the vein he was in at the time, right? Right around this time, John Lennon is killed and they were really good friends. So he lost a very good friend. And Tony Visconti had been the person that had been producing all of his albums forever. They were really good friends and they had a huge falling out. And it was a feud that was going to last for like another 20 years. So like, it was a big falling out.
Thank God.
Nice.
Oh, God.
No. I only say that because, without this partnership, we're not going to get these big 3, which in my opinion are the best 3 songs David Bowie ever recorded. But that's just my opinion. Go, Delynn.
This is just your opinion. And the other thing you also have to remember is David Bowie very much was a rock and roll chameleon. He liked to change personas. He didn't like to do the same thing. He quote unquote killed Ziggy Stardust at the height of his popularity. You know,
Crazy.
like he came out on stage and was like, "This is the last time we'll ever perform as Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars," and everyone was shocked, including
Right.
most of the band. So,
Right.
like, this is just what he does. This album was a way to subvert expectations of him, and you know, looking at the track record, we shouldn't be surprised that he was looking to make a change. If you've seen Velvet Goldmine, you'll understand this reference. He goes from his Brian Slade era and enters his Tommy Stone era. The Tommy Stone persona here. It's basically what that movie was based on.
Mm.
That being said, Bowie himself was very critical of this album and this period in his career because he kind of felt like he had sold out a little. He felt like it was artless. But then, like years later, he came back and said, you know, it definitely has a place. And so he kind of waffled on it. He went back and forth. I think the commercial success of it made him a little uncomfortable, which, you know, I can kind of get, you know, because he went through a lot of times trying to not be mainstream, you know?
Right.
Also to be mentioned is that after this album, he hit like a skid. There's like a creative black hole that goes right up until like 95 when he comes out with Outside.
Right.
So once you get into Outside, you get Hello Space Boy, you get I'm Deranged, which end up on a movie soundtrack, and was a fantastic song. Some people might say Black Tie White Noise is a return, but it doesn't resonate with me, so I don't count that one. I say he doesn't come back until 95. So it's an interesting thing. But you know, he had done like decades of great albums up until this one, and this was the last one before he kind of disappeared for a while, you know.
Yeah, that's a lot. You really did your homework on this one.
I read like 4 articles about it and about what he thought about it over the years and what Nile Rodgers thought about it over the years. And it's a lot because like love and hate for it goes up and down with both of them over the years, depending on what era you're speaking to them in. So
right.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think exactly like what you said there, how it depends on what time period you're talking to Rodgers and in Bowie. I liked Ziggy Stardust. My first dog as a kid was named Bowie because my aunt who gave me the dog was such a Ziggy Stardust fan.
Oh, cool.
And she kind of introduced me to it. Thanks, Diane. You know, and it was, I almost want to say it's that point, I think, in his career, or at least in my listening of Bowie, that it was the best change for me at my age, the time. Everything was like the perfect alignment where I was like, whoa, what's this? Because, you know, I knew all the older Bowie stuff and appreciated it for what it was. But then to hear what Nile Rodgers did to this was just wow. And it kind of made me realize David Bowie is not using, and I don't think he explored this genre enough. I think his voice fits the Nile Rodgers sound so well. You know, even with not the hits that are on the song, I really liked where there's a couple songs where it was just the perfect blend, I think, of the two, where it had that really great groove and flow musically, but had the Bowie translation, lyric, melody, oddness to it.
Yes.
And it just hit it. But, you know, some fun facts I found for it was, first off, the album was recorded in 17 days.
No
Back
shit.
then, that is like a world record.
Are you fucking kidding me? Really? 17 days?
What I read, it was 17 days. And I forget which musician I was reading. They quoted, it was so refreshing to be pushed to work that fast and just get it done.
Wow.
They really liked recording with Bowie because Bowie likes to work fast.
Yeah, there's some of these songs that they're pretty much like 1 take, 2 takes, and that's it.
Stevie Ray Vaughan was like, most everything was 1 take, maybe 2, and he's like, there's maybe 1 song that I had to do a 3rd take, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, Ed, we're gonna get into the Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff, and I really like the way he played on this. I really like the sound on this, but he is gonna repeat a lot of licks several times.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point, and I had written, you know, they're fucking great riffs, so it's fine. I mean, it's not like he's, you know, repeating garbage licks, but as a guitar player, I'm like, oh boy,
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, but this is also it's Bowie's best-selling album, so you got to give Rogers credit for that. You know,
Yeah.
he brought
Commercial
him
success.
mainstream.
Yeah.
He made Bowie so mainstream. I mean, what I think is next, it was either the record deal for this. I think it was this record deal is when he re-signed, because this is when he left his original label, and I think he signed with EMI after this or something like that.
This is
And it
also
was
the time that he
$17 million. It's like back then,
that's a
that's
lot of money.
crazy money, and especially for someone who is an artist.
Yeah. This is also around the time that he got the deal with Pepsi to do the commercial with Tina Turner.
Oh,
So
that's right.
yeah, so that's how commercially successful he was at the time.
Yeah.
Without Nile Rodgers and Let's Dance and China Girl, David Bowie is not the legend he is today. He would be remembered. He would have a huge following, huge cult following. These earlier records would be adored, but Let's Dance and China Girl put him on the map to where he's in movies like The Wedding Singer, and everybody is saying, "Oh, baby, just you shut." I mean, this is what solid made him what he is.
Yeah,
period.
it kept him
relevant.
I think the change kept him relevant for the next 40 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he went from the 70s, being a star of the 70s in kind of a niche way to being the biggest 80s pop star. I mean, maybe behind guys like Prince and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Let's so I mean, I think we've got everybody's opening thoughts. I'll just give you a quick thought. I mean, much like last week, we're going to get the big three again. I mean, and these are a much bigger three than last week, but we're going to get the big three. They're surrounded by a supporting cast of songs that, they're going to lack a little bit in the hooks and the vocal production. And again, like last week, I really have a problem with the arrangement of the album. It was a huge mistake putting these three songs back to back to back at the beginning of the album. It changes what this album could have been. Just that one decision.
Drastically.
And so Ed, you've listened to this album cover to cover before coming in today?
No.
Okay. And
I have not.
Delynn, have you listened to it cover to cover before coming in today?
Yeah, I've listened to it cover to cover. It's not in heavy rotation. The big three are, but the other, but I've listened to it because I'm always curious what is on his B-sides, what other things are around him at the time. So yeah, I definitely have listened to it before, but I will admit that it's not in heavy rotation, all the B-sides and all that.
Yeah, I know you're like one of the biggest Bowie fans walking the planet, so I knew you would heard it. And I've never listened to this one cover to cover, but the big three, like everyone else, a million times. And I've heard some of these other tracks, like the final track on the album. So yeah, I'm fairly familiar with it, but not the whole thing. Okay, so let's get into it. First track on the album is Modern Love. And I will start it off. So this first track sets the tone for the album. I mean, Ed, you're going to agree with me on this. This drum sound and execution is fucking as good as it gets. I mean, it's not over affected. It's fairly dry. It's present. The guy is playing the riffs, the riffs you and fills you want to hear, period. And then this bass. Oh my God, they layer this bass over these present dry drums with the warmest, butteriest, thickest, most amazing sound ever. And it just creates this little like hot dog wiener that I just want to devour. It's literally magical. We're going to get the horns.
I think there's something you want to tell us, Des.
Yeah, no, I meant I meant one of those little Vienna sausages with like the breading around it. Those little delicious
the cocktail wieners.
Cocktail wiener. Yeah.
It's funny because in my research, I did read one guy that was like, I'm not gay, but I watch Bowie and things, and I like, maybe. So
maybe. Oh God. Yeah, and the horns. Absolutely amazing. And then we're going to get David Bowie's lyrics and his vocal performance. And It's fucking brilliant. It's brilliant. It's so good. It's so well produced. You can hear every breath he's taking, every syllable he's spitting. This song is 100 watts. It's a perfect song. I absolutely love it. Delynn, what did you think of Modern Love?
I mean, I can't say much more than you already did because you're on it. You know, it's so good. And his vocals and his vocal tone and the inflection in his voice, it's like, wow, like this is just good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like what are you gonna say? It's the horns are in the perfect places, the tone is awesome, the backing music is all just everything is so dialed in. It's
Yeah.
so dialed in. It's like it's almost like too perfect. It's just so good.
Isn't it?
It's just so good.
Yeah.
So then also we should mention the video, which is an awesome video, especially
Yes.
because I find China Girl and Let's Dance videos a little weird. I mean,
love
because they
them.
are.
I
They're
love
good,
them.
but they're weird.
They
And
are
this
weird,
is
yes.
just a straight up performance. You know, you get to see the big, the big set, how it looked, people giving them flowers. It made you feel like you were at that show. And I love it. Love it. The suit, the like zoot suity thing that he was wearing during this time, just love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's David Bowie to me too. Like I know people, some of the older stuff, they, the Pirate Jack, right?
A Halloween Jack.
The Halloween Jack, people identify Bowie to that. But for me, David Bowie is, white dress shoes and the suit.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
Bowie for me.
Absolutely.
Ed, Modern Love, first song?
Yeah, for me, I need to preface this with saying I've had so many issues and have stated on a couple of previous podcasts, speaking over music does not belong anywhere. This is the exception.
Okay.
David Bowie is one of few people that can pull it off because, the way this just starts out with the drum track, and then he just, starts talking, and then, you get the guitar with the,
Yeah.
and then everything kicks in right. And so I'm like, oh my God, it's orgasmic.
It
Absolutely orgasmic.
It is. And I was thinking about you listening to this album because he's going to speak a few times on it. A little more effective in certain spots than others, but I was hoping you were going to be okay with this.
Oh yeah, no. This David Bowie is one of the few that can get away with it because it's kind of his thing.
And his voice. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's his voice.
Read me a lullaby.
Honestly, if he, I want to find every book on tape that he's ever done just so I can hear his voice.
Right. Okay.
But then there's these little things that are all throughout it, like the harmonic right before everything kicks in on the guitar. I was like, oh my God, that is just so huge. So good. And then when you do a song and you write it and it's one of those call and response type songs like this is, if it works as well as this, it is a guaranteed hit. It's guaranteed that it doesn't matter how bad a show goes live, you can go to this song and everything's going to be all better. It's just wow. It's unfortunate because this is the perfect opening song for an album. The problem is it sets the bar so goddamn high.
But the thing is the next two songs after this are going to reach those heights. That's the problem.
To a degree. It definitely fit in the pocket. Definitely fits in the pocket.
I mean, it's and I wanted to say one more thing about what you were saying with the chorus. These background vocals, these return background vocals, they're fucking on fire, right? But when you layer them with the different melody of those horns, oh my God, dude. Oh, I get chills just thinking about it. Okay, let's move on to track 2. It's China Girl. I love this, but what do we think about this opening riff?
It's a little, especially
for today.
And back then, like we weren't thinking anything of it. And if you listen to Iggy Pop's, it's got the same riff, so it's not like Bowie made this up. There is a part in the video where he goes like this with his eyes, and I'm like, oh, Dave, like that was probably a little insensitive, but
we didn't know better back then.
Yeah, we didn't really. So I'm gonna give him a pass. But I was just like, oh, like I was watching it last night, and I was like, oh, Dave, don't do that. But but honestly, I mean, the sound that they got is great. It's just I think that it's a little, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Is that what you got?
Well, no, I was gonna say that I love the bass in this song. I mean, honestly, I love the bass through this whole thing because the bass is just delicious.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's fantastic with the bass.
yeah, and then you get the little plucky guitar and the rhythm section's holding it all down. There's funk in it, even though you're using this kind of Asian style riff. So there's a ton of funk underneath this Asian style riff. And like as you said earlier, song was written by Iggy Pop with Bowie, and it's based on Pop's relationship with a Vietnamese woman. And by the end of the affair with her, how his Western influence was corrupting her. Like that's what the song's actually about, is about how he was kind of ruining her, you know. And like I said, he recorded it too. You can go and listen to it. I listened to it last night on YouTube, I think. Everyone's seen the video by now. The video's a little weird. I mean, it's stylistic. I don't know. I feel like there's some weird parts. Like there's a part where he pretends he's shooting her in the head with a gun, and I'm just like, I don't know if I like that. But
yeah,
it was
his artsy stuff. Though.
Yeah,
he always threw in his videos back then.
It was the 80s. I mean, I'll let it go.
Yeah.
Ed, China Girl.
I was never a huge fan of the song because I saw the video first. And yeah, it was just, I was young and thought the video was just weird. But listening to the song, it's a great song overall. The opening guitar doesn't bother me at all. I think it's a great, almost tribute to that type of sound.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like an homage to it.
Yeah, like just the way the notes are and everything, and and it's just the guitar itself, just the tone of it is, it's so hard to not, or even to put words to these first three songs because it's just so wow. But really, the I have down here like the way the bass changes and it's got that groove, and then all of a sudden it goes to a steady 8th note pattern, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so subtle because the bass isn't really up front so much as the groove that is held in all of these songs are just fantastic. But really just the changes, phenomenal. I wish the drums were a little more active in it because...
But Ed, they are, you know what? I wrote that down too, so I'm glad you noticed that because they're not as busy as the rest of the album, but for this one, they're so fucking solid. It's like...
They are.
Oh, they're nailed to the floor.
It's not that I wanted them bigger so much as I wanted a little more, like small little snippets here and there of a little accent or something.
Yeah.
Because the little accents and drum fills that are in there are great. And I'm like, I just want a little more, which I guess is a great sign because it leaves me wanting more. So I guess well done for them. So
yeah, I felt like, because it's funny that you noticed it and I noticed it. It felt like it was done intentionally to make everything around them feel a little busier.
Absolutely.
They were just nailed to the floor. And this guy is such a great player. Even when he's playing simple, the tone and everything is just like, you just notice it.
It takes you over. It really takes you
does. Over. So this track is like, it's amazing. David Bowie's lyrics and his vocal performance is blowing my mind. This is what I like David Bowie's voice to sound like. It's just, it's hauntingly beautiful. And he does something really cool as a songwriter that I always like, little tricks like this. So, you got the chorus to the song, but at the end, he's going to turn, My Little China Girl Says, Just So Shut Your Mouth. He's going to turn this into almost like another chorus at the end, where he's taken a line from a verse and now he's using it as a chorus in the end of the song. And it's almost like a pre-chorus because it's going to go into the actual chorus of the song as the song trails out.
Right.
And I just thought that was so clever. It was so good. It almost felt like they had it as a chorus and were like, but it works as a verse. And then, why don't we use it as like a pre-chorus, like kind of A-B chorus at the end? And it just really worked for me. I loved it. Oh, yeah. Okay. So third track on the album is Let's Dance. Ed.
The opening to this song is, honestly, I got an erection listening to it.
You and me both.
It just, the vocal build up and then into that groove with the horns. It is just and it's you listen to this, and this is your third track. You're like, this album might be the greatest album ever written.
But then it's not.
I know. The lyrics and story are really, really great. I mean, I love them. And then adding the vocal arrangements, the whole flow of everything rhythmically just really gets me. It's in, you know what? This is, I think, a classic less is more musical song where nothing is too much. You could put a little more of everything in it.
And they did.
But you're like, but you're like, it works. It works so well. And it just, I think it breaks the typical format of what was being put out at that time. Especially when you get to the solos, you're like, wait, were there like 4 entire notes played in the guitar solo? Yeah. I mean, it was. I heard these songs in this order when I first heard this album or learned about the album. I guess it was China Girl, Let's Dance, Modern Love, which I think was the best way to hear this, in my opinion, where you're just like, all right, this is pretty good. Oh wait, this is wow. And then Modern Love, it's like, it was like just climbing a mountain, and I'm like, oh boy, what's coming next?
Yeah.
So
this is my favorite David Bowie song of all times, and this is one of my favorite songs of all times. It's off the charts. And again, I love here that the drummer's going to lay back. He's just going to play super, super solid.
Yep.
It's tight in a good way. Like, it's crazy. The additional of these little bongos he's playing, so good, man.
Yeah, the percussion's really well.
Yeah, so you're getting this really tight drum track, but then it's loosening it up on top with this hand, percussion. Oh, so good. And then on top of how tight this rhythm track is, we get these really loose guitar riffs that complement this extra tight rhythm section so well. And this is just what they do on this fucking record. Which blows my mind they did it in 17 days because it feels so mapped out.
I know, right?
Then we get this like kind of, and I don't know if this is going to be a proper description, but this like jazz fusion jam on the outro, right? And it rides the edge.
It's kind of bluesy, jazzy.
Yeah, and it rides the edge of being like almost out of control. And what he's going to do, he does this a couple of times on the album, which I really like. It's the horns, right? Like, he lets them get so on the edge of like falling out of tune or almost out of time, or like, but it's so good, man. It almost like keeps you on your toes. You're like, oh my God, like watching somebody like perform a motorcycle stunt. Like, is he going to crash? Oh my God, he's fucking amazing.
Oh, we did it. Yeah.
And then he lands it in the end, and you jump out of your seat and put your hands up, and you're like, fucking yeah. That's what I'm getting here. It's amazing. The production, the production of these first 3 songs is as good as it gets. But then something happens going forward with the production, the songwriting, and for whatever reason, they decide they're no longer going to showcase David Bowie on this album. So Delynn, Let's Dance. Not literally.
No. So much funk. To me, when you say 80s Bowie, this is the first song I think of, like immediately. People say 80s Bowie, it's Let's Dance. First of all, because that's the name of the album, so it immediately takes your brain there. But this song is just, it's so tasty. It's so ridiculous. This is the Serious Moonlight. Like, you called it the Serious Moonlight Tour. I mean, like, what? Yeah. Like, the words, so good. Just, and then, of course, like you said, Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar, especially towards the end, getting into that breakdown. David plays the guitar in the video, but I'm pretty sure it's all Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's just, but him in the video with the white gloves and the white shoes playing the guitar, like in the middle of like the outback, the Australia. What?
Yes, please. Like, so good.
So good. And again, let's mention the video. It's a little weird. You got these native Aboriginal people living in this Britified Australia with these white people. And, you know, the red shoes are like some sort of like a Western influence and it causes a nuclear blast. I don't know, but it was really very strange, but beautiful at the same time. And, you know, I also thought something about, David Bowie that I find interesting is that he finds beauty in things that a lot of people don't. And, you know, like uh, Aboriginal people or the girl from China Girl might not have been traditionally beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he puts them in these multi-million-dollar videos and puts them in the forefront. And, you know, like who else was doing that? Nobody,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that when you kind of look back, like he was always a champion for um other races, especially as a white man himself. He's like, I'm going to try to bring other people up. Like there's a famous you guys should look at it if you haven't never watched it. There's a famous interview he did on MTV where he calls them out for not playing black artists.
Mm.
And the interviewer is kind of like trying to like laugh it off, and the side eye, the evil glimmering side eye he gives this interviewer, it's like he's just like not having it at all.
I
You
love
know,
it.
and it was like it's really quite funny. So like he really, I like that he used these people in his videos, even if I think the videos are a little weird. And you know, I like that he was always trying to lift up other people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. David Bowie was a wonderful human being.
Yeah, and to play off your comment about him playing the guitar in the video,
yep.
this is actually the first album that David Bowie only sang on. He played 0 instruments on it. It was the first album of his career that he did that.
I mean, quite honestly, he had such amazing musicians backing him up. He really didn't have to.
Oh, yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean, and you know, they were playing a style he wasn't really used to. So it's probably better that he left it to the folks that had it dialed in.
Oh,
being a guitar player, and loving Stevie Ray Vaughan as I do, I feel like he may have been the wrong choice for this in particular album because it is a pop album and it has a lot of jazz feel on it. And there is a guitar player that was around at this time that I feel would have been a much stronger choice for this album in particular and would have elevated it. We'll get it to that player later. And Stevie leaned on his signature lick a few too many times on this album, and it started to sound a little monotonous to me. And again, it's not a knock on Stevie Ray Vaughan because he's amazing and the lick he's playing is amazing, but it's noticeable that he returns to it 4-5 times on this album and sometimes in a single song. Okay.
Right.
So
that's fair.
But that's also production. I mean, that's not, you can't really put that on the player because that's more of a producer's discretion.
Right. Well, you also wonder how many takes he got on each one and, you know, how much creative time he had. Right. I mean, you know, he's got his basic bag of licks. So clearly he's going to pull those out first. You know, these are my best licks and I'm only getting a short time to perform on each song. So I want to put my best foot forward. I just can kind of feel the lack of time he had to create maybe some other things. That's all. It's a very small criticism.
Yeah.
But okay. Track 4 is Without You. And this is where the album takes a turn for me. And it's not a turn like I'm saying, oh, this album sucks now. No, of course not. No. It doesn't. It's just not the big three. So, all right, this song, it has a wonderful groove and the music is never going to let me down on this album. These musicians can't let you down.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. So this song has a wonderful groove. We're going to get those classic Stevie Ray Vaughan licks here again, and they are classic, and he's playing them really nicely. I did notice that they tried to tame down Stevie Ray Vaughan's sound a little bit to meet the flavor of this album. And I think it affected the way he played a little bit because, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan is fucking, you know, he's a hot guitar player. He just is what he does. Gets up there and kicks ass. And this is a pop album. And they're looking for delicate licks and they're looking for a lot of melody and they're looking for a lot of things, sound that's more delicate. They're not looking for that Stevie Ray Vaughan fucking kick you in the face sound. So, you know, he's fighting an uphill battle on this album and I can feel it. The lyrics are nice. Bowie's vocals are fine, but coming off the big three, they're a little bit underwhelming. And as the album goes on here, I find they're pulling Bowie's vocals back more and more, and I'm struggling to hear the stories and what he's saying more and more. And what's strange to me is it was so crystal clear through the first three. I wonder if it's a conscious choice to do this. Delynn, what did you think about Without You?
So, the first thing I'm gonna say is that the voice on this song in particular sounds very much like he sounds on the Labyrinth soundtrack. And
Mm,
that is within a year of this album coming out. That happens. That soundtrack and movie comes out, and it sounds very similar to uh the way he sings on those songs. Kind of breathy, kind of a little, mysterious. So
yeah.
it's almost like he was practicing for it, like I hate to say it that
Oh
way because
boy.
that sounds a little rude, but it's almost like he was kind of trying out that flavor to see if it worked for him or not. Tons of bass again here. Like you said, the musicians aren't going to let you down. You might find it underwhelming when he's kind of holding back his vocals, especially when you put it up against Let's Dance or
Yeah.
Modern Love. But since I love the songs from Labyrinth, I have no problem with it whatsoever. And just a fun little fact about this song is I'm pretty sure it was released as a single, and it had a cover. Famous artist named Keith Haring did the cover art for it. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Ed, Without You, what do you think?
This is definitely the point of the album where Bowie almost takes over and starts asserting control, I think.
Yes.
You get more into that art sound that he has. Unfortunately, I think the placement of this song does it a disservice. I mean, it's completely injustice because I like the song overall, because once I separated myself from, okay, this is Bowie, this is not pop Bowie, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Because musically, though, I think it's got that 80s sound that I just wasn't a fan of. It's not overly synth or anything, but just something about the music wasn't my cup of tea at all. And really, the I think the best part of the song is how they ended it. I think the three chords they play right at the end, I'm like, oh, that was really nice. It was beautiful. It fit really well and kind of tied the rest of the song together. But to get all the way to the end before that little, 2 seconds of music happens, it just it didn't do it for me. That's all.
Yeah. It was coming off a pretty hot streak there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
So
a different song, I think would have done better there on this album.
yeah, these next few songs are fine if they are slotted in properly between the hits, but it starts to slog a little bit.
Yeah.
So track 5, Ricochet. Delynn?
All right, Ricochet. So this is a really an experimental track, as I'm sure you guys can tell by listening to it. Um, let's see here. What did I wrote about it? He wanted it from what I read, he wanted it to be a bridge between his artistic self before and this more modernistic take this album has. He's on record saying that he didn't think it was as successful as he was hoping it would be. To me, the syncopation is kind of awkward, and he had wanted it to be more flowy. It's kind of got like an Afrobeat jazz thing going on, but I'm not really sure it fits on the album.
Yeah. Ed, what did you think of Ricochet?
That's so funny because I really like this song.
Oh, did you?
I mean, it's kind of a good song. I just don't know if it fits. Like when you put it next to China Girl or Modern Love, it's like,
you bring up that it's not flowy, and I literally wrote down the music. I think is super exciting. I love that this song has big open hi-hats.
Interesting.
Through the whole thing. I think it's like that whole, it gives a nice wave to it, I think. And then it's got a real flowing-ish piano in the background, and then the bass that's so staccato, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, there's this quick little, I want to say it's like a 6, maybe 8 note run that is like at the end of each verse or chorus, and I'm like, oh wow, that really adds to it. And I think his storytelling works well over the music. So I think what he does in the way he does it, I think works for that music. It just it's something about it just made me literally, this is what I wrote. Listening to the song gives me a visual of a movie or a musical.
Interesting.
It's almost like I'm seeing what the song is when I hear it.
I like that take, and you made some really good observations on the music that maybe I didn't appreciate first time listening, but now that you say it, yeah, those open hi-hats really stand out because this guy's been playing tight,
Right.
Yeah. And the funny thing is like if you listen to a song like Ashes to Ashes, this kind of is reminiscent to Ashes, which I love.
Exactly.
It definitely has that kind of syncopated kind of back and forth going on. So yeah, now that you've kind of talked me off the ledge a little, because I think I was so like into like the China Girl groove that I was like, this doesn't really fit. But it really is kind of has an Ashes to Ashes flavor, which is a song I adore. So
yeah, me too. Me too.
So this one felt like over the top artistic to me. It was not written to be a hit, right?
Well, that's Bowie. That's Bowie.
Like it was written. This was written not to be. This was written not to be a hit. Like he's like, no, I'm fucking legit. I don't just write hits. I didn't love this song. I just didn't. And all right, so I'm a songwriter. I'm a lyricist. So like Ed likes to listen to a song from the music up. A lot of times I like to listen to a song from the vocals down. I mean, though I will, I see it both ways, but David Bowie, this melody in the verse is not good. It's not good. It's repetitive. It's just not good. It just isn't. So, I mean, in my opinion, some people might listen to it and say, fucking Dez, you're an idiot. This melody is amazing. In fact,
Dez, you're an idiot.
I was going to say, it's funny.
You are an idiot. So
it's funny because people actually say that to me all the time. So, but fun fact, I'm an idiot. But yeah, I didn't love this song. I don't even have a ton to say about it. I just didn't love this song. Let's move on to track 6. Criminal World. Ed, give us your thoughts on Criminal World.
By the time I was done listening to the song, it became one of my favorites on this album. I think it's really cool. I like I think this is the perfect mix of Rodgers and Bowie for this album. It's not too much of either one. I think it's just I think if Without You and Ricochet and kind of Cat People, even though that was a cover that Bowie wrote before, in Shake It, I think if the rest of this album was more like this, it would be a much stronger album. I actually wish this was a single. I think it would have done well. I think it would have added a little more to the overall performance. But the bass and drum groove, they're just massive. The guitar solo fits perfectly, and the vocal melody and lyrics it's like I said, it's the perfect combination of the two of them. It's and you can hear the difference. Okay, Bowie put this, Rodgers put this, and it works so well for me. I really just enjoyed it.
I'll agree with you on that. It's better. We're going back in the right direction again. So I did not love this opening guitar riff, and I'll tell you why. It was too simple, and it was extremely monotonous. It didn't stand up to the song. It just didn't. The bass and drum combo again is just fucking off the charts. It's amazing. So the lyrics and the vocals kind of took a back seat to what felt like this was maybe supposed to be Stevie Ray Vaughan's showcase on this album. And again, I just had to say, I wish they had amped him up a little bit for this. Especially like his guitar sound. I wish they had just amped it up a little bit and let him cut loose a little bit more. So it could have showcased like what Stevie Ray Vaughan is capable of. And again, it didn't lend itself to Stevie Ray Vaughan's playing per se. Like the backing track isn't really what you're used to hearing Stevie Ray Vaughan play over. So yeah, I thought it was good. It was fine. It was fine. Yeah. Delynn?
So I like this song more than you do, but maybe a little less than Ed does. I'm kind of in the middle between you two. So interesting fact, this actually is also a cover. It was done by a band called Metro in 1977. David ended up using the song, but he changed a lot of the lyrics. And the funny thing is that there was a lot of lyrics that were sexually ambiguous or ambiguous. Thank you. Yeah, you're not going to correct me on that one.
You're intimidated by my intelligence.
Okay, idiot. Anyways, so he actually like changed some of those lyrics and made them a little bit more palatable, I guess, which is like so funny because, you know, he had definitely gone through that whole period, you know, before where he was telling people on television that he was bisexual and making people's eyebrows go up. So, you know,
Yeah,
I don't
Mr.
know.
Androgynous.
Yeah. So I don't know if he was trying to like, I don't know, normalize himself a little bit here by changing those lyrics. But I mean, I wish he kind of hadn't changed the lyrics, but I get it. You know, he's doing what he's got to do. So it's kind of funny when you think about it. This is a cover. China Girl is technically a cover. Cat People is a cover of his own song. So it's kind of funny that there's technically a lot of covers, but he actually does this a lot. I mean, if you think about it, he re-released Fame in 1990. You know, like he redid it and re-released it. So he kind of likes looking back at his older stuff or older things that resonated with him. So I think this song belongs on the album. It totally gets the feel. You get that plucky Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar. Bowie's a little bit pulled back, but it didn't hurt the song to me. So that's how I feel about it.
I felt him struggling with the sound. There wasn't enough sustain on it. And, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan leans on that stuff. He's a fucking blues guitar player.
Right.
So he's leaning on that sustain and that to make his notes carry out and to be able to bend and hold on a note and get that feel that Stevie Ray Vaughan brings. And when you take all that down and strip that guitar down that far, he's struggling to make it work. And it showed. It just did. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the licks. It was more the sound for me.
Right.
So you said Cat People is a cover?
Of his own song, because he did it. Yeah, okay. He did it for a movie called Cat People. Do you want me to get into that? I've got it written down here.
Well, you can when your turn comes.
Okay. Well, shit. All right.
Wow! Crack that whip. Crack that whip.
Jesus.
Okay. All right. So Cat People, and you know it's funny because when we did the Van Halen album, you know, again done in a very short amount of time. But if you put these two next to each other and say, yeah, these two were recorded in the same amount of time, you can kind of hear that production on Van Halen where it's like, I could see this maybe was recorded in, you know, 13 days. On this one, no way, man. But what Van Halen did was they picked the right cover songs. So they've got their best original stuff mixed in with these great cover songs, which is making a very strong album. I feel like David Bowie, maybe if he had picked one R&B cover that was like kind of a hit that we all knew, something really good and made it his own, would have made this album a lot stronger. So Cat People, I felt like the vocals again were really hard to make out on this track. But I did love the melody in the verse that he was singing. Really good. Like really good. And the female backing vocals, again, just really, really good. Finally, Stevie Ray Vaughan's leads on this. They finally let him turn up the fucking gain a little bit. and it worked because he's playing. This is his best performance on the album. Again, in my opinion, best performance on the album. I really enjoyed it. And I really like the sound on this track. And if you're going to go with Stevie Ray Vaughan as your celebrity guitar player, you got to let him do this on the whole record, but it didn't fit on the record, which again is why I'm not sure Stevie Ray Vaughan was the right choice. Delynn, what do you think? Cat People.
Also, you have to remember this is kind of early in Stevie Ray Vaughan's thing, you know, like
it was before he broke.
Yeah, you know, like he had kind of, I mean, I hesitate to say he discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan because I don't think that's what I'm trying to say, but like he was kind of taking a little bit of a chance on him because he was not as well known as he is today.
Yeah.
So just putting that out there. Okay. So David recorded the song, and if I mispronounce names, I apologize because it's a lot of foreign names. Giorgio Moroder in 1981. And then again with Niall for this album. It was originally for the 1982 erotic horror film Cat People, and it was starring Natasha Kaninski and Malcolm McDowell.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so I mean, and I don't think I've ever seen the movie. I should go and watch it since his music's in it. But
Yeah.
I got a story about the movie for you.
oh, good, oh, good.
Hey,
So
during your turn, Ed.
yeah, wait your turn. So fun tidbit: when he was working on this song for the movie, he was in Queen's studio, and that's how he hooked up with them to do Under Pressure. So personally, I wish Under Pressure was on this album right here. Like that would
Yeah.
my God, it would blow our wigs off.
That would have been unbelievable.
It would have lifted this little slump that's kind of at the end of the album. It was just released as a single, and it ended up on one of Queen's later albums, which is probably fair because it was said that Bowie was difficult during the recording, which, I mean, that's not an unusual story, that he's a little difficult sometimes. So anyways, the original song is completely revamped. They removed atmospheric synths and some other stuff from it from the first go around and added all the music you hear in it now. It was nominated for a Grammy and it lost to Beat It. Though
As it should.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And though other tidbit, the video for China Girl did win over Thriller for best male video in the very first VMAs, and that's
a mistake. That's a mistake.
Because
that's a mistake.
You know me, I love David Bowie. I will pick Bowie over Michael Jackson every day of the week, but Thriller is one of the best videos ever made.
I have my receipt. I would like a rebate, please. That's bullshit.
He would like to speak to the manager.
I would like to speak to the manager. That is bullshit.
Desi's going to go Karen on everybody.
Wouldn't be the first time. Oh, God.
Yeah, you just went Karen on the cat rescue this morning, so you know.
I went Karen on Karen. Yeah, so since we're doing this song, I should preface. So as I did mention, we lost our dog 15 years, but we are about to become cat people. We have adopted a cat, a little handicapped guy with goofy eyes, and we're bringing him home today, and I can't wait. I've never owned a cat before, so it should be interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah, cats are very interesting.
They were dragging their feet, and Des had enough, so he had me shoot off a very Karen-like text message this morning.
It got the ball moving, though. Got the ball moving.
Sure did. It sure did.
That's good.
Okay, so Ed, what did you think of Cat People?
Yeah, so to back up on your comment about Stevie Ray Vaughan, so the way Bowie saw him at the Montreux Jazz Festival, the famous one that Stevie Ray Vaughan actually released with Double Trouble, that they got booed, basically off the stage, and I believe I have that correct. That might have been a different festival, but I know this was before the recording was released. And Double Trouble didn't kind of break, and he brought him in, and Niles didn't really love his sound. He said he was too Albert King-like. And Bowie's like, no, he's got something different about him. And after they did the whole album, Nile Rodgers and Stevie Ray Vaughan became actually very close, which is great because obviously, they're both amazing players. But, it's kind of funny how you get an initial impression on someone. And then as you start to know them and develop a relationship with them, you see what makes them a little bit different.
Interesting.
But for Cat People, first off, the movie came out in, was it 82, 83?
82.
Okay. I was a young adult, not quite teenager.
Not yet a man?
Not yet a man. but knew what I was interested in at the time. And that meant that I stared at a blurry screen that occasionally would come into focus at the correct time so I could see boobs.
I know, I did that too.
because back in those days, you had to subscribe to these ridiculously expensive movie things, and you get it on demand. And after a certain time, they showed nudity.
Do you remember the remote control with the plus and the minus thing? You're clicking it left and clicking it right, trying to get that boob to come in.
It would come into focus just for a second. Oh, it's so fun to be a young male that is just so desperate for
Oh,
figuring
I
God.
out
know
what sex
these
is.
days, literally, you just type it into the Google machine and up it
Yeah, I know.
comes.
Now it's like not even like you don't have to work for it. Like you had to work for it back in
Yeah.
the day.
You
Yeah.
had to work hard. You had to work hard.
But I digress. Back to the song.
Skinamax after night.
Exactly. The
Seiko.
the song is so different from anything else on the album. Um, I I liked it more and more the more I listened to it because of the way the flow changes. It's almost like it's sectioned the song, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought the solo was classic Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yes.
It's so good. It makes an unknown genre of music a bluesy rock. It kind of like gave the song an identity when Stevie Ray Vaughan finally played a solo. You're like, oh, it's a bluesy rock song because you didn't know what it was until then. And I don't even know if that was intentional, but that's kind of what I got from it when I get done listening to it. However, it definitely doesn't fit on the album, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's one of the few moments on the album where I could listen to it and say, "Oh, that's Stevie Ray Vaughan."
Yes. Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt that's him.
Yeah. So, but with that just shows you how underutilized he was on the record.
Completely.
So track 8 is "Shake It." Delynn, talk about "Shake It."
Well, I mean, you can't mention the song without pointing out that it's a retread of Modern Love. They're basically bookending the two songs. It basically has the Modern Love groove in the background. That being said, I like the new words. I like the female backing vocals. This was kind of considered a throwaway song by Bowie. He never performed it live. Like it was kind of just a song that they threw in to finish off the album, which you can kind of feel when you listen to it, unfortunately, but which is too bad because the Modern Love music is fantastic. And he probably could have fleshed it out and made it like an even more of a bookend and made it just like Modern Love, The Return or something at the end,
Yeah, especially since so many artists did that back then.
Yeah,
where they
that was
would
like a thing,
bookend
remember?
something with like a remake of the original song.
Yes. Yeah. That was definitely like a thing. People would bookend albums with a song that made sense at the end of the album. So, yeah, it kind of feels like a missed opportunity to take it and really do something special with it. But I like it. I don't dislike it.
Yeah. Ed, what did you think of "Shake It"?
Musically, I thought it opens terribly. Like I was like, oh, this is garbage. It's way too similar to Modern Love.
Okay.
However, as soon as the vocals come in with that acapella, shake it, what's my line? I'm instantly hooked because I'm like, I don't know what it is about that. It's so catchy. And I'm just like, oh, I want to keep hearing it. And it's a total puff piece, I think, of a song. But when I got done, I almost felt like I was listening to a Frank Zappa tune. And I think it was that weird, odd, but addicting sound that I was like, okay, I definitely listen to this on occasion in the right situations,
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, I thought this song was the only other song on the album that felt like it belonged with the big three. Like this one could have been a B-side to any of the B3 if you were buying like a little 45. With some more thought into it and maybe another month of writing, this could have been on the big four. This could have been a fucking huge hit, but it felt like they got it like in the ballpark and said, that's good enough. Let's record it. But it did fit with the rest of the album. And I kind of wish this had been the floor. Like this had been the standard for the rest of the album that wasn't the big three. Like had we got through 4 more shake it's, like songs that sounded like they belonged with the other ones, not quite as strong because you're not going to write, 5 Modern Loves or 8 Modern Loves. Not going to happen. It would have been a stronger album. I did not like it as the final song on the album. Yeah, it would have been nice if it had been like the setup for Let's Dance as the final cut on the album, right? Yeah. So it was,
that'd be good.
Yeah. I love David Bowie singing on this again, though. Like you said, really fun. You can make out everything he's singing again. The production is back on his voice here, so I'm not struggling to understand what he's singing. So yeah, I thought it was fine. All right, so let's get into track favorites and tracks we would cut. My favorite track on this album is Let's Dance. It's not even close. I fucking love it. And the song I would cut would have to be Ricochet. I just didn't care for it. I thought that Bowie dropped the ball with that verse melody specifically. Ed, favorite and cut.
My favorite, Modern Love. I think
Okay.
that is close to a perfect song for me.
Okay.
And I think the worst song, the song I'd cut would be Without You.
Interesting.
I think its placement just compounds what I don't like about it.
Gotcha. And Delynn.
I mean, Let's Dance. It's
okay.
It was probably one of Bowie's best songs ever, period. I think if I was going to cut something, I think I'd cut Criminal World, just because, like you said, if he had picked a different cover to do, you know, something that might have been a little bit on the funk side or something like that, you know, like a, I don't know, Grand Funk Railroad song or something, and made it his own, I think he would have been better served. But I don't dislike the song. I just think that he could have maybe made a better choice there.
Okay. Okay, so if we had to replace one member and replace him with who would get the gig, so I think it's obvious I would take Stevie Ray Vaughan off of this album and I would replace him. And this is one of the few weeks where I think that this replacement would elevate this record to new heights. And I think it would also even make the big three better. I would replace him with Eric Clapton. His sound suits this record. His playing suits this record. He's a delicate guitar player with tons of melody. He's super creative. He almost never plays the same lick twice. Eric Clapton would have fucking, oh my God. You put him on these songs? Yes. Ed, what do you got?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great substitution. And I kind of have two. And the first one, I'd change out the percussionist, and I'd replace him with Sheila E. I think she got a little bit of a vibe percussion-wise for it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I agree with, they didn't utilize Stevie Ray Vaughan properly on this album. So I would almost like to would have heard what Nile Rodgers would have done doing the leads instead, even though he's playing the rhythm. Yeah. Okay, Niles, take it. You know, let's see what you got. Because, I mean, we all know what he's got, but, you know, let's see what you have for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they shoehorned Stevie in just to get him in there to say Stevie Ray Vaughan played on this record.
But it was before Stevie was famous, so I think it was maybe David saw something in the guy and he just wanted to get a piece of it before he couldn't, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, before he got to a point where he wouldn't be on a Bowie album.
Right.
Gotcha. All right, Delynn, swing for the fences. What do you got?
I mean, I'm just completely necking off of what you said last week. I'm putting John Taylor from Duran Duran in this band because that bass is just like, it's so good anyways, but he is so good that I feel
he's
like
not that good.
Yeah,
oh, he's good. He's good.
This guy is. No, he's not going to add anything to this record. He's a great bass player.
Carmine Rojas is he's playing.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's fucking delightful, but just
okay. Step into my office. You're fired. You had a great show until that.
Well, hey, listen. I'm bringing my A game here.
Delynn, you have been fucking amazing the last 2 weeks. You definitely have really, I mean, honestly, made my job easier the last 2 weeks. I fucking mailed it in. I'm like, Delynn, go.
Yeah,
I mean, to be honest,
so much.
Thank you. To be honest, it was very easy because these were two albums that I really enjoy. Like, if you had asked me to do some stinker, I would have been like, "Oh my God, kill me!" But
Delynn,
you know,
what's your Watt score on Nothing Shocking?
It's way higher than you guys gave it. I'll tell you that much.
Maybe we could get that in there and recalculate. All right, I joke.
You can't. Okay. But my Watt score would have been at least in the 80s. So yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I love it. I love it though, because to me, like Dez, it speaks to a period of time in my life. So
Right, yeah.
when I listen to it, it's that nostalgia, it's that feeling, it's that,
I get it. Yep.
and I mean,
Honey.
like this, hold on, this album, you have to understand, I didn't know, I was born in 74, so I didn't know Bowie until about this time period. This was
Yeah.
actually where I was introduced to him. Seeing him on MTV, I was like, who's this guy? Then as I get older, I back up into his discography and his music, and I learn, wow, he's not really this dude. He's that dude, but
Right.
he's also this dude. And like,
Yep.
that's what started this thing, this interest in him. But it was like, this was my first Bowie. So it's
Right.
like, it's got a very special place in my heart.
So if listeners, if you want to listen to Delynn and I like literally fight with each other and scream obscenities at each other, what am I saying?
Obscenities.
Obscenities at each other. Have her scream at how dumb I am, and me tell her. Yeah, if you want to hear it all, like if you want to hear the crazy, go listen to fucking Hey, did you ever see that movie? It's fucking shit show. All right.
I think I need a guest spot on that.
You are welcome anytime.
Anytime you want to pick a movie and come on, you're more than welcome. All right, so let's do final thoughts and some Watt scores. I will start. This album should have started with Modern Love. Then China Girl should have been 5th. And Let's Dance should have closed out the show with the rest of these kind of obscure tracks sprinkled in around them. And it would have made the listen more enjoyable for me, because every time I started going, oh, it's gassing out, boom, here comes another one. So that was a huge mistake. But with that being said, the combination of Bowie with all these amazing musicians surrounding himself, and the big three, coming hard. This is a must-own album in any collection. Must own.
Definitely.
My Watt score, even though there's only 3 songs that I really enjoy, and I'm gonna put the final song is a 4th that I would listen to, shake it, here and there. I have to give this album an 81.9 watts score, just because those 3 songs are all 100 watt songs. Unfortunately, the rest of the album waters those 3 down to an 81.9, but it's Bowie. It's in the 80s. Ed, what are your final thoughts in your Watt score?
Yeah, so this album is just, like you said, it's a must own. I think you definitely need to appreciate Bowie for what he is. I mean, as someone who's been able to change his identity artistically so many times and have success over and over again, you need to give a lot of props to that, because most people have one thing and that's it. And he's like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do now, and has success with it. And with that said, though, 3 monster hits on it that are just in one of which I think is pretty close to a perfect song for me. And then the rest being what I appreciate about Bowie. I enjoyed this album. I gave this a 45, an 84.51.
Look, you said 45.
Died.
Yeah, my heart dropped. My heart dropped.
No, 84. Yeah, no. That was, yeah. I skipped over the first number.
I would just like to say that I was actually at about 84.8 originally, but since I have been such a shameless score whore, I'm trying to pull back, just show a little restraint. My thoughts on this one was I wanted it to beat out Tina Turner for my score, which I had in a high 70s. But similar albums, both great hits.
Yep.
So that was my thought process, if you care. Delynn, what are your are your final thoughts in your Watt score?
So you know me, I try to not get overly loquacious with a final thought. But
hey, what did I tell you about using those big words on the shows?
Listen,
what does loquacious mean?
Listen, just shut up. Anyways,
use it in a sentence.
Listen, shut up. Remind Dez to shut up.
What's its origin?
Listen, shut up. Can I just finish? Yeah. Anyways, I try not to get overly wordy with final scores, but please humor me, because this might be my last breaking vinyl for a while if Dave is back and ready to roll next week. So, okay. And we're also talking David Bowie. I mean, we're talking somebody that starts with like Space Odyssey and Man Who Sold the World and all the way up to Black Star right before like a week before he dies. I mean, gave us so much. Like Ed said, recreated himself over and over, stayed fresh, stayed new, had slumps, but you know what? Like, the man is a juggernaut and, you know, can't give enough love to him. I would score this like a 99 just to be an asshole, but I'm not going to because there are some issues with things, like, there's some songs that I felt like this could have been a little different or he could have changed that. So I'm going to give him an 85.6.
That is thank you. That's a fair score.
I think it's a fair score because here's the thing. China Girl, Modern Love, Let's Dance, like you said, 100-watt songs immediately, like right off the top. I can't detract a single thing from any of them. These other ones just shave off the back of those a little bit, and I bring it down just for that reason, because it's like it's just what I feel about it,
I feel like I should have stuck with my 84.9, but it's too late. Okay, Ed, will you please calculate the scores and tell us how many watts this album is putting out?
This song comes in with an average watt score of 84 watts.
Nice. And Ed, where does 84 watts land David Bowie's Let's Dance on the Breaking Vinyl charts?
That puts us at number 2.
Oh, behind?
Behind Van Halen, and in front of Junkyard.
How can Van Halen? I mean, okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. It is. It's amazing. That ice cream song fucking fucks it up. Okay.
He will not let Ice Cream Man go. He just
I saw Van Halen live, and David Lee Roth brings out this goofy guitar and starts doing it. I'm like, all right, it's time for me to go get some fried dough. I'll be back.
Oh, God.
Okay. Ed, as you do in fact have the next album pick, will you tell us and the listeners what album we will be discussing next week?
Absolutely. The next album is going to be one of my favorite newer bands 20 years ago. And that would be the first release from Hoobastank. So it's going to be Hoobastank.
So this is an album I am definitely not familiar with. I do know I don't know how many hits are on the album, but I do know the one hit that I've listened to.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to listening to this record. I mean, this is why we do this. Open up some, crack open some new fucking records.
That's it.
Okay. I would like to thank you, the listeners, of course, for coming by and listening to the show. We're growing every day. It's very, very important that you guys leave us a 5-star review, comment, share, whatever it is, thumbs up, wherever you're listening to this, Apple iTunes, Spotify, whatever it is, please, I am begging you. This is like YouTube. You have to like the video. You have to, because what happens is it pushes us up in the algorithm and it makes it easier for people to find the show. It takes 2 seconds. We don't do commercials in the show, even though we now have been approached to put commercials in the show and get paid to do this. And I've decided not to do it with this show or with Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie? Because who the fuck wants to listen to commercials? So help us do it and just do it. Do it. Okay.
Especially on Apple. It is, for some reason, the algorithm on Apple, like, it just doesn't work without reviews and the star rating. So it really, really helps for both this and for Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie? If you listen to either or, taking the 2 minutes to just hit us a 5-star is super helpful, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. And I will tell you where you can find the show this week. I'm gonna swap it up, and since Ed's been doing double duty on the list, you can find us on Instagram at Breaking Vinyl Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Breaking Vinyl Pod. Actually, that's BVINYLPOD. And you can join the Facebook group at Breaking Vinyl Podcast. And if you like movies and you like to listen to me and Delynn scream at each other, go check out Hey, Did You Ever See That Movie? And we will be doing Top Gun next week. Yeah, get him, Goose.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so until next time, take those records out of the sleeve and let the music breathe. See you next time.
Bye, guys.